Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtoto Tadashri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtoto Tadashri Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad-gītā Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Well, Mahima, I completely lost the place. 28. Right in the second paragraph, in conclusion? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 26th day of February 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad-gītā as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are at the conclusion of the introduction. Second paragraph on page 28. In conclusion, the Bhagavad Gita is the transcendental literature which one should read very carefully. Gita Shastram idam punyam yak patet prayatak puman. If one properly follows the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, one can be freed from all the miseries and anxieties of life. Vayashokadi varjitaha. One will be freed from all fears in this life, and one's next life will be spiritual. Gita Mahatmya 1. Okay, so just... Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, I just wanted to explain a little bit. Did I say I was born in the darkest of ignorance? I just said that. So, Gita Mahatmya. Prabhupada is going to quote several verses here from Gita Mahatmya and also some from the Bhagavad Gita itself. And Gita Mahatmya means the glory of the Gita. And these verses, I think, are taken from the Padma Puran. There's several Gita Mahatmyas, and I think this is what he's chosen here. And we only have 2 pages here, and he's going to finish up. So we'll continue. There is also a further advantage, and he's quoting again, Gita Mahatmya. I'll say, you say. Gita dhyayana shilasya pranayama parasya cha naiva santihi papani purva janma kutani cha. If one reads the Bhagavad Gita very sincerely and with all seriousness, then by the grace of the Lord, the reactions of his past misdeeds will not act upon him. Gita Mahatmya 2. The Lord says very loudly in the last portion of the Bhagavad Gita, 1866, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekang sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Close quote. Thus the Lord takes all responsibility for one who surrenders unto him, and he indemnifies such a person against all reactions of sins. Now back to the Gita Mahatmya. Malanirmochanam pungsam jalasnanam dine dine Sakrid Gitamrita Snanam Sangsara Malanashanam. One may cleanse himself daily by taking a bath in water. But if one takes a bath even once in the sacred Ganges water of the Bhagavad Gita, for him the dirt of material life is altogether vanquished. That was Gita Mahatmya 3. Now, Gita Sugita Kartavya Kemanyai Shastra Vistarai Yasayam Padmanabhasya Mukhapadman Viniksrita. Because the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one need not read any other Vedic literature. Hare Krishna. One need only attentively and regularly hear and read the Bhagavad Gita. In the present age, people are so absorbed in mundane activities that it is not possible for them to read all the Vedic literatures. But this is not necessary. This one book, the Bhagavad Gita, will suffice, because it is the essence of all Vedic literatures, and especially because it is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gita Mahatmya 4. As it is said, Bharatam and Sarvasvam Vishnu Bhaktrad Viniksritam Gita Gangodakam Pitva Punarjanma Navidyate. Page 29. One who drinks the water of the Ganges attains salvation. So what to speak of one who drinks the nectar of the Bhagavad-gītā? The Bhagavad-gītā is the essential nectar of the Mahabharata, and it is spoken by Lord Krishna himself, the original Vishnu. Gita Mahatmya 5. The Bhagavad-gītā comes from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Ganges is said to emanate from the lotus feet of the Lord. Of course, there is no difference between the mouth and the feet of the Supreme Lord, but from an impartial study we can appreciate that the Bhagavad-gītā is even more important than the water of the Ganges. Savo Panishado Gavo Dogdago Palanandanaha Parto Vatsak Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gītāmritam Mahat. This Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad-gītā, the essence of all the Upanishads, is just like a cow. And Lord Krishna, who is famous as the cowherd boy, is milking this cow. Arjuna is just like a calf, and the learned scholars and pure devotees are to drink the nectarian milk of the Bhagavad-gītā. Gita Mahatmya 6. Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani Karmapyekam Tasya Devasya Seva. Gita Mahatmya 7. In this present day, people are very much eager to have one scripture, one God, one religion, and one occupation. Therefore, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. Let there be one scripture only, one common scripture for the whole world, the Bhagavad-gītā. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. Let there be one God for the whole world, Sri Krishna. Eko Mantras Tasyanamani Yani. There's one word missing there. It'll be in future editions. And one hymn, one mantra, one prayer, the chanting of his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Karmapyekam tasya seva. And let there be one work only, the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's the end of the introduction. And you can check out the disciplic succession at your leisure. Starts with Krishna, and the last member on this list is Srila Prabhupada, but he also empowered the other devotees to continue the disciplic succession. So we're going to start, and we're going to read text 1. Chapter 1, Observing the Armies on the Battlefield of Kurukṣetra. Dhritarashtra Vacha Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimako Vata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimako Vata Sanjaya. Go ahead, Chad. We're doing it. Text 1. Where were you? All right. You can catch up. Go ahead. Dhritarashtra Vacha Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimako Vata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra Uvacha Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimako Vata Sanjaya. Ladies. Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Go ahead, Ami. Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dharmakshetre Kurukṣetre. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva. Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Anyone online? I guess everyone's here. All right, I'll read this word by word, so you just read silently. Dhritarashtra Uvacha, King of Dhritarashtra said, Dharmakshetre, in the place of pilgrimage, Kurukṣetra, in the place named Kurukṣetra, Samavetaha, assembled, Yuyutsavaha, desiring to fight, Mamakaha, my party, or sons, Pandavaha, the sons of Pandu, Cha, and Eva, certainly, Kim, what, Akurvataha, did they do, Sanjay, O Sanjay. Translation, Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjay, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukṣetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Purport. The Bhagavad Gita is the widely read theistic science summarized in the Gita Mahatmya, glorification of the Gita. There it says that one should read the Bhagavad Gita very scrutinizingly with the help of a person who is a devotee of Sri Krishna and try to understand it without personally motivated interpretations. The example of clear understanding is there in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in the way the teaching is understood by Arjuna, who heard the Gita directly from the Lord. If someone is fortunate enough to understand the Bhagavad Gita in that line of disciplic succession, without motivated interpretation, then he surpasses all studies of Vedic wisdom and all scriptures of the world. One will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. It is the perfect theistic science because it is directly spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The topics discussed by Dhritarashtra and Sanjay, as described in the Mahabharata, form the basic principle for this great philosophy. It is understood that this philosophy evolved on the battlefield of Kurukṣetra, which is a sacred place of pilgrimage from the immemorial time of the Vedic age. It was spoken by the Lord when he was present personally on the planet for the guidance of mankind. The word Dharmakshetra, a place where religious rituals are performed, is significant because on the battlefield of Kurukṣetra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was present on the side of Arjuna. Dhritarashtra, the father of the Kurus, was highly doubtful about the possibility of his son's ultimate victory. In his doubt, he inquired from his secretary Sanjay, what did they do? He was confident that both his sons and the sons of his younger brother Pandu were assembled in the field of Kurukṣetra for a determined engagement of the war. Still, his inquiry is significant. He did not want a compromise between the cousins and brothers. Actually, they're just cousins. He did not want a compromise between the cousins, and he wanted to be sure of the fate of his sons on the battlefield. Because the battle was arranged to be fought at Kurukṣetra, which is mentioned elsewhere in the Vedas as a place of worship, even for the denizens of heaven, Dhritarashtra became very fearful about the influence of the holy place on the outcome of the battle. He knew very well that this would influence Arjuna and the other sons of Pandu favorably, because by nature they were all virtuous. Sanjay was a student of Vyasa, and therefore, by the mercy of Vyasa, Sanjay was able to envision the battlefield of Kurukṣetra even while he was in the room of Dhritarashtra. And so Dhritarashtra asked him about the situation on the battlefield. Dhritarashtra was home in the capital of Hastinapur or Indraprastha, I forget which one. I think Hastinapur. So and Sanjay, by his mystic ability, was able to have like a regular TV program. They could see everything and hear everything. Both the Pandavas and the sons of Dhritarashtra belong to the same family. But Dhritarashtra's mind is disclosed herein. He deliberately claimed only his sons as Kurus, and he separated the sons of Pandu from the family heritage. One can thus understand the specific position of Dhritarashtra in his relationship with his nephews, the sons of Pandu. As in the paddy field, the unnecessary plants are taken out, so it is expected from the very beginning of these topics that in the religious field of Kurukṣetra, where the father of religion, Sri Krishna, was present, the unwanted plants like Dhritarashtra's son Duryodhana and others would be wiped out, and the thoroughly religious persons headed by Yudhishthira would be established by the Lord. This is the significance of the words Dharmakṣetra and Kurukṣetra, apart from their historical and Vedic importance. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, just a little backstory here, because we didn't read the setting the scene, which I think sets it up. You can read that on your own. So, this Bhagavad Gita is 18 chapters of a very long book called the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata has 100,000 verses. The Bhagavad Gita has 700. So you can see. But the Bhagavad Gita is like the crown jewel of the whole Mahabharata. So there was Pandu was a very virtuous soul. He was older than okay. So there was someone named Vichitravirya, and he was part of the line of the Kurus, but he couldn't have any children, and so Vyasadeva came in order to impregnate his wives and issue some children. So Vyasadeva was an ascetic. He was living in the Himalayas. He wrote the down the Vedas, very famous. But he was a little rough-looking, So when he came in the first time to have intercourse with one of Vichitravirya's senior wives, she was appalled. So she shut her eyes, and then they had intercourse. And Dhritarashtra was born. He came out blind because she closed her eyes like that. So even though he was the eldest, he couldn't be the king. Actually, that was the problem. You see. So the next in line was Pandu. So the next wife, she saw Vyasadeva, and she kind of turned white. So he came out really pale. That's why he's called Pandu. Pandu means very white complexion. And then I think there was, I don't know, whether there was two more, or just one more, Vidura. Yeah. So one more was Vidura, and I think it wasn't Vyasadeva who came in. And so it was Vyasadeva, but she was like she wasn't one of the wives. So he was kind of a lower born, but he was very religious and very important. So those were the three sons of, he was still known, the sons of Vichitravirya, though he didn't really physically have any. So what happened was that Dhritarashtra was the eldest, but he was blind, so he couldn't be the king. So Pandu was going to be the king, but and he was married to Kunti and Madri. And Kunti had this power, which she had done a great service for, I think it was Durvasa Muni, and he gave her a blessing that she could call any demigod she wanted, and he would appear. So she was just a young girl, I don't know, 15, something like that. So she wanted to try out the blessing, so she tried it out, and Surya came, Surya, the sun god, There's an incredible painting. You don't see it much anymore because it's huge, and it's located in the Chicago temple. I used to visit there once a year during Christmas time, and I see it on the wall. It's a magnificent painting. She's there, and there's Surya, and it's an amazing thing. So okay, so it worked. The blessing worked. So Surya said, "Well, now that I've come, we have to have a child." He says, "No, I'm a virgin." So don't worry, he'll be born from the ear. You'll still be a virgin. So He was born, and you know who was born? Karna. Karna means ear. So Karna came out, and he was fully armed, a little baby with you know, armor on and weaponry. So it was startling. And so what's she going? And Surya went back. So what's she going to do with this baby? You know. So this reminded me of Moses, isn't it? So she put the baby in a little. There's a river nearby. She put the baby in a little secure little boat she made, and off we went in the river, hopefully. And she was the baby was found by a carpenter and his wife, and you know, a Sudra couple. So they said, "Oh well, you'll take care of the baby." So they had the baby. Amazing baby with little armor on and everything, you know. So Karna was actually the best fighter of all of them, even better than Arjuna. He was the son of the sun god, you know. So that caused some problems. Because anyway, let me not get ahead of myself. So anyway, so Pandu, see, he was the second oldest, so he was in line for the kingdom. But what happened was that he was living in the forest. He was out in the forest. I don't know if his wives were there, but I think they were. And he saw what he saw was a deer. And some of the Kshatriyas, they get the practice, you know. So he shot the deer, but it wasn't a deer. It was a Brahmin who had taken the form of a deer to have sex with his wife, with the she-deer. So that Brahmin said, "Oh, thanks a lot," you know. And so he cursed him. Said, "If you ever try to have sex with one of your wives, you'll die." Wow. So he's out there, but then at one point I think he had sex with Madri and he died. So now Pandu is gone. So Dhritarashtra can't be king. So what's going to happen? You know. So the Pandavas, now they're born. There's kids because Kunti called Indra and had Arjun. She called Vayu and had Bhima. And there was one more. Yudhishthira, the third one. So Bhima's the Yudhishthira, of course, Yamaraj. And Madri, the co-wife, she also, Kunti called the Ashwini Kumaras, and so she gave birth to twins. So that's 5. You get 2 twins, and you get Yudhishthira, Bhima, and Arjun. So those are the Pandavas, but they're just little boys. Now they're orphans. So what's going to happen to them? So Kunti took shelter of Dhritarashtra. So now she's living among them. But Dhritarashtra, you know, he had this whole thing with Gandhara. He had 100 sons, and they're all thinking, well, Pandu's gone. You know, Dhritarashtra, he's blind, but you know he can't be the king. But we should be the heirs. We should take over the kingdom. You know, so Duryodhana, he was the eldest son, and he had these plans. You know, so they had all these conspiracies to try to do away with the Pandavas. And Vidura helped them, especially with the one where they said, "Oh, come on, we got a nice place for you to live. This is home here. You can stay there, you know." So they took it, but before they went off, the Vidura said, "Watch out, you know, they've built that out of lac, a house of lac." We didn't know what lac was, so the early books have lacquer, you know, and we fixed that. It's lac. You know what lac is? Probably not. Lac is something that you make from insects or something. It's very flammable. What is it? Resin, which comes from where? From the insects. Right. Anyway, it's very flammable. And in other words, the house was rigged to go up in flames and immolate all of them. So Vidura hinted them. He didn't tell them specifically that watch it. I forget what the trick was. He gave them some kind of riddle, you know, that. Yeah. In other words, he warned them about it. Let's put it that way. So they're living there, but they're digging as Prabhupada would call it, a subway, a little tunnel, you know, to escape. And so they were able to get out. But just before they came, there was a mother who came with her 5 children there. Did you know that? And they perished there, but they were all. They were burned. So the word went out that the Pandavas had been killed, but they escaped and had run through the forest. So they have nothing now. They have no, you know, they just. So Bhima is carrying them all because he's all powerful. You know, he's got everybody on his shoulders and he's running into the forest. So eventually they have to take rest, so he puts them down, you know, and there's, I remember this because I worked on the Adi Kanda, I think where all this is mentioned, the first part of the Mahabharata. And it describes how he was so lamenting because here's his mother, who's a queen, you know, and she has to lay down on the forest floor, you know, and all this stuff. So they survive, but there happens to be these man-eaters out there, you know. And so they say, oh, this looks like a good meal here, you know. So there's I forget his name, but he sent his sister to check it out, and she immediately fell in love with Bhima. She's a Rakshasa lady, you know. So what does he want to have to do with her, you know? So she disguised herself as very beautiful, you know. So actually, he married her, right? I forgot her name, you remember? Hidimba. And her brother Hidimba, right? He actually sent her to reconnoiter in Bhagavad-gītā. So, you know, Bhima, you know, at first she was insulted and this and that, you know. But, so she went back to her brother and said, okay, they're ready, you know, go and get them. So he came there, but we didn't reckon on Bhima being so powerful that he could fight with them, you know. So this battle, and Bhima took care of him and killed him, you know. And then he married Hidimbi, and they had Kurukṣetra, right? Who turned out to be very important in the war. He was very, very, what is that? Head was what? Oh, in the battle he was killed, but head was chopped off, yeah. But before that, he had proved very courageous and did a lot of, you know, good fighting for the Pandavas side. Anyway, this is some of the preliminaries. They're also they were able to stay with a family, you know, and this was another demon, I think it was coming, and they had to offer one person, you know, every day or every week, you know, for this other Rakshasa. So the turn came for for their family they were staying with. Said, well, we got to defend them, you know. So Bhima said, okay, I'll be the offering, you know. So he said there, and when the guy came, there was a fight. It wasn't imagined. He killed the Rakshasa, you know. Anyway, this is some of the adventures they had. Then eventually, I'm not sure, you know, I haven't read in a long time the story, but the Yudhishthira came and he was able to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice and be recognized as the king. There's a whole, you can read that in the Krishna book. You know, they had to kill Jarasandh. Jarasandh was, all the main kings had to pay tribute, otherwise it's a fight, you know. So they all did except Jarasandh, you know, so there had to be so Krishna went there with Bhima and Arjuna disguised as Brahmins. If he does in the Krishna book, you know. And although Jarasandh was a demon, he highly respected the Brahmins, you know, so they knew that. So they came and they begged for charity. And he said, take whatever you want, you know. He says, we want to fight with you. So he could see that they weren't real Brahmins, you know, they had big muscles and everything. And so he said, Krishna told him, yeah, we're not really Brahmins, you know. I'm the same Krishna who you fought for 17 times, you know, and lost. And this is Arjuna and here's Bhima. So he said, well, I'm not going to fight with you, Krishna. You ran from the battlefield. You're a coward. And as far as Arjuna, yeah, he's too weak for me. But Bhima's a good match. So they started fighting with clubs, and, you know, days went by. I think a couple of weeks went by. And finally, Krishna, he knew the secret of how Jarasandh came to be. Jarasandh means two halves put together by the witch Jara. You know, when his mother had two halves, or something like two halves, and it was useless. The baby was useless. It came out in two parts, so she threw it into the forest. And this witch found him, and by witchcraft put him back together. So this is Jarasandh. He's very powerful. But he's got a flaw there. He's got a you know, crack. So Krishna, he hinted with a little piece of twigs or something. So, oh, I get it. You know, Bhima was very smart. So he ripped up Jarasandh in half. He was the end of him. And so when that was done, then they went back to Indraprastha and they said, okay, the last king who wouldn't show. So there was the Rajasuya. Rajasuya is recognizing who's the king, Yudhishthira. It was very opulent, but Shishupal, whom Krishna had insulted by taking Rukmini, who he was supposed to marry, he was a big demon. He had the blessing, he had a certain number of insults that he could throw at Krishna. 100? Yeah. So he's insulting Krishna, and people are getting ready to fight him, and some are walking out. They don't want to hear it, And he gets to the 100th one, and he throws it, and Krishna comes up with the chakra. That's the end of Shishupal. So kind of grisly, but there it is. And then they had the Rajasuya, crowning Yudhishthira, and everything is all. The only one who wasn't really happy about it was Duryodhana. And it was funny because they all had different functions to perform. And Duryodhana was ready to catalog the gifts that came, and he was getting jealous and envious. He saw how rich Yudhishthira was. And Krishna, he took it upon himself to bathe everyone's feet who came. Krishna's bathing everyone's feet. Anyway, it goes on like that. So finally, there's this final battle, and this is just before that, for the kingdom, who's going to win. There was a whole thing with the, what do they call it? Sabha, but it's the nasty Sabha, I forget what it is. And the Kshatriyas have to, if they're challenged for gambling, they have to play. That's one of the things, right? So Yudhishthira was challenged by Duryodhana, not by Shakuni, I think, or something. Anyway, wasn't it? Shakuni was advising him. Okay. Anyway, they cheated Yudhishthira out of everything. And he was like righteousness, so whatever gambling you do, you challenge me, I keep gambling. So they said, okay, what are you going to bet? He said, well, the whole kingdom. All right, they lost that. What else he got? I don't know, Draupadi? So he bet his wife, and he lost his wife. Anyway, so now they get nothing, So now Karna, who was very envious because he had a crush on Draupadi, but she didn't want to have anything to do with him. She said, all right, anyone at this Rajasuya side, they have to be Kshatriyas, they can't be. And he was known as the Shudra because he was raised by a carpenter, even though he was a great fighter. So he went out with Dushasana to find Draupadi, and they came in, and the purpose was to disrobe her in the middle of this whole evil sabha, And so there's a famous scene where she's trying to hold on, and everything. And finally she just realized, I can't fight with these guys. So she just called out to Krishna, Govinda, save me, and he comes famously in the form of unlimited sari. So they're disrobing, but she's disrobing, and there's a big pile of sari. And finally, they're exhausted. They realize it's not going to work. So she was saved from that. And Dhritarashtra, who wasn't all bad, he finally realized, and he gave Draupadi, I think, several things that she could ask for. And the first thing was she wanted her husband's back. She was married to all 5 of the Pandavas, which was unusual, but that's what it was. So that's the first thing. And then the other was they ended up being exiled for how many years? 14 years? 12 years or something. All right, so off they went to exile. That's the whole thing. And Arjun, and they had to be disguised for the last year. So Arjun took the role of a dancing teacher, Brihanila. You can imagine. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff that happened there. And finally, it all, the exile is finished, and they come back, and then the battle takes place, and they win the battle. All right, so that's and then now Dhritarashtra is going, what's happening? He's sitting back in Indraprastha. He's got Sanjay, his personal TV, who can tell him what's going on. So that's why the next verse says Sanjay Uvacha, because he asks, so what happened? What did they do? Sanjay Uvacha, Drishtva Pandavani kam Vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Bravit. Sanjay said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth. Unfortunately, he was also bereft of spiritual vision. He knew very well that his sons were equally blind in the matter of religion, and he was sure that they could never reach an understanding with the Pandavas, who were all pious since birth. Still, he was doubtful about the influence of the place of pilgrimage, and Sanjay could understand his motive in asking about the situation on the battlefield. Sanjay wanted, therefore, to encourage the despondent king, and thus assured him that his sons were not going to make any sort of compromise under the influence of the holy place. Sanjay therefore informed the king that his son, Duryodhana, after seeing the military force of the Pandavas, at once went to the commander-in-chief, Dronacharya, to inform him of the real position. Although Duryodhana, now just want to note, Dronacharya was also Arjun's teacher, so he had a lot of affection for him, so his allegiances are split. So. Although Duryodhana is mentioned as the king, he still had to go to the commander on account of the seriousness of the situation. He was therefore quite fit to be a politician. But Duryodhana's diplomatic veneer could not disguise the fear he felt when he saw the military arrangement of the Pandavas. Pasyaitam Pandaputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudham Drupadaputrena Tavashishyena Dhimata. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. Purport: Duryodhana, a great diplomat, wanted to point out the defects of Dronacharya, the great Brahmin commander-in-chief. Dronacharya had some political quarrel with King Drupada, the father of Draupadi, who was Arjun's wife, and also not just Arjun's wife, but all the Pandavas' wife. As a result of that quarrel, Drupada performed a great sacrifice by which he received the benediction of having a son who would be able to kill Dronacharya. Dronacharya knew this perfectly well, and yet, as a liberal Brahmin, he did not hesitate to impart all his military secrets when the son of Drupada, Drishtadyumna, was entrusted to him for military education. Now, on the battlefield of Kurukṣetra, Drishtadyumna took the side of the Pandavas, and it was he who arranged their military phalanx, after having learned the art from Dronacharya. Duryodhana pointed out this mistake of Dronacharya's so that he might be alert and uncompromising in the fighting. By this he wanted to point out also that he should not be similarly lenient in battle against the Pandavas, who were also Dronacharya's affectionate students. Arjuna especially was his most affectionate and brilliant student. Duryodhana also wanted that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat. Duryodhana also warned that such leniency in the fight would lead to defeat, and he had the same fears about Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev had helped raise the Pandavas when they were just little kids, and he took the role of their grandfather. Bhishma Dev famously was brahmachari all his life, and I won't go into that story. But he had great affection for these Pandava kids, and so he would help raise them. And he was on the side of Duryodhana. So Duryodhana had some worry that he was not fighting fully, and so that's another pastime. So he said, all right, tomorrow I'm going to kill all the Pandavas. And I've got these 5 arrows, So Duryodhana thought he would be very smart about it and said, well, let me keep them, so you don't change your mind. And on tomorrow morning, I'll give them to you. He said, okay. So Krishna knew that. So he told Arjuna to go to Duryodhana's camp. After the sun set, they were all friends. It was an amazing thing. So he went there and came, and Duryodhana said, oh, welcome, Arjuna. Thank you. Whatever you want, I'll give you, So he said, what, the kingdom? I'll give you the kingdom. He said, no, we're going to fight, But I want those 5 arrows. How did you know about the 5 arrows? Krishna knew, he told him. So this is the great advantage of having Krishna on his side. That whole pastime I won't tell. Krishna was sleeping, and Duryodhana and Arjuna came, and so Arjuna was standing by the head, and Duryodhana was standing by the feet. So Krishna woke up, and he first, he's looking, he saw Duryodhana on his feet. So he said, okay, whatever you want, you can have. You can have either my armies, like Akshauhini, so many elephants, infantry, and horse, cavalry, or you can have me, but I'm not going to fight, So Duryodhana, fool that he was, he said, what good is that? I'll take the armies. All right, you know. So Arjuna was worried that, but they both got what they wanted, but Arjuna got the best deal. So Krishna knew about the arrows. He could tell him, okay, you beg those arrows. So he did. So there goes that. But still, Bhishma was fighting like crazy, and he had Arjuna ready. He was ready to kill him. You know, so Krishna. So he promised that either I will kill the Pandavas, or Krishna will have to break his promise and fight, because he promised not to fight, one or the other. So Krishna, when Arjuna's chariot had been broken and he was off and he was helpless, and Bhishma Dev was so Krishna got off the chariot, picked up one of the wheels and was wielding it like his chakra and ran toward Bhishma, ready to kill him. Yeah, and Bhishma was shooting arrows at him, and it's a little confusion there that I think it was piercing. Krishna was feeling the hits of those arrows like the kisses. Anyway, it was quite dramatic, and Bhishma was, he was a devotee, and he was like, kill me now, fine, I'm great. He didn't do that. Later on, Bhishma Dev was shot through with so many arrows, but he had a blessing from his father that he wouldn't have to die unless he wanted to, So he's on this bed of arrows, shot through with arrows, but he's not dying. Krishna comes, everyone comes, all the great sages and saints come to witness this, and he has these beautiful prayers. I memorized them. One, a beautiful meter. One or two is like, Chubavannakamanang Tama. He's lying like that. Chubavannakamanang Tamalavanam Ravagada Gauravaram Dadani Vapadalakulavatana Jam Vijayasakeratarastamena Vadya. He's looking right at Krishna. Oh, this is, I think, the first or second one. Tribhavannakamanam, he's the most attractive in all the three worlds. Tamalavanam, he has the complexion of a blackish tamal tree. Ravikada Gora, Varambodang Dadane, Vapar. On his body he's wearing these silken garments that are shining like the yellow, like the sun, gold like it. Ravikada, the sun rays. Varambodang Dadane, Vapar. Alaka Kulavatan and Abjam, and his beautiful lotus face is surrounded by this gorgeous black curly hair. So he's meditating on Krishna, he's lying there, Vijayasake. He's the friend of the victor. This word Vijay, like we've had Vijay here and we have Vijay Krishna. Vijay means the victor. It's a name for Arjuna. You see, Vijay. So Arjun's the victor. Vijayasake. He's the friend of the victor, friend of Arjuna. Ratarastamena Vajja. Let my attraction, my love be drawn to him and not be directed to anyone else. That's his prayer. One of his prayers. Very beautiful. 9th chapter, 1st canto. If you have the Srimad Bhagavatam, you can check it out. Where is Kathy? She buys the Bhagavatam now. She doesn't think she has to come to class. He sold her a whole Bhagavatam set. Huh? Maybe. Anyway, he's got something going on. All right, so where are we? One more and then we'll do a poem or two. Where were we? Take 4? Okay. Atra Sura Maheshvasa Vimarjana Samayudi Yudhano Viratascha Jupadascha Maharataha. Okay. So here he's, is it Duryodhana speaking to his teacher? Yeah, Duryodhana is speaking to Dronacharya. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna. Great fighters like Yuyudhan, Virata, and Drupada. Purport. Even though Drishtadyumna was not a very important obstacle in the face of Dronacharya's very great power in the military art, there were many others who were causes of fear. They are mentioned by Duryodhana as great stumbling blocks on the path of victory, because each and every one of them are as formidable as Bhima and Arjuna. He knew the strength of Bhima and Arjuna, and thus he compared the others with them. All right, so we'll stop there and continue on Monday. This is a very dramatic chapter. Okay, so we had all of that Veera Ras. Maybe we should do a little Madhura Ras. Okay. So, I don't know, you may probably heard this before because I've said it, but maybe not. And if you did, maybe even if you did, you might have forgotten it. So this is a very easy verse to memorize because all of the syllables are long. The meter is a very unusual meter, written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Barha pidam maula bibrad vangshi naran atan van nana kalpa srisampanno gopa sribi sambhita netranandam kurvan Krishna tuntad vikshe tha sarve kamak sampadye radasmakam vidyasina. Decked with crown of peacock plumes, decked with crown of peacock plumes, and chanting songs with flute you sing, wearing lovely ornaments while standing in the gopis' ring. Dearmost Krishna, eyes delight, if you will kindly glance our way, all our heart's desires will be fulfilled on this most blessed day. And then our anthem. You can all memorize this one. There's no Sanskrit for this one. Where Krishna lives, felicity abounds with pure simplicity, and loving sensibility, all serve him with humility. But when a living entity rejects his true identity and out of sheer stupidity surrenders to cupidity, he loses all sagacity and with it all capacity to understand reality or curb his sensuality. Abandoning humility, he touts his own ability, forgetting his fragility and fortune's volatility. Immersed in asininity for what seems an infinity of lives devoid of piety, he suffers an anxiety till contact with God's devotee, perhaps of utmost brevity, awakens his affinity for words of the divinity. Perceiving the futility of all his imbecility, the soul regains his sanity and casts away his vanity. Endowed with new humility, he serves with all ability and growing spontaneity his guru and the deity. Regaining his identity, the wayward living entity returns to the fraternity of Krishna for eternity. That's it. That's our trajectory. We're all on that parabola somewhere. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.